Hello. Hi guys, can you hear me? I'm just gonna do a sound check because I was just dropped into this call immediately. My name is Madhura and I'll be moderating today's session. And I have three amazing speakers next to me. Thank you so much for making your time to be here. I'm very excited to talk to you guys. I don't know about the audience, but I want to pick your brains and understand how you guys think and why you do what you do. So because if you guys don't know, we had another moderator who was supposed to come in, but hence why I am not Hakwin, if you guys are wondering. This is not how Hakin looks like. I'm Madhura. I'm one of the co-founders and advisor of Ascendance. I started my journey in impacting the youth when I was 19 years old. It was a very interesting journey, and I think as a student at that time, it was one of the best things that I ever did. And I think all three of you are also someone who can testament to that, where pursuing things when you're a student, it really changes you. But before we go into that, I'm just going to give you guys, because we did hear some of your presentations, so the audience know kind of what you do. But I want to know the stuff that they may not know from a typical LinkedIn search that they would do. So if you were to kind of introduce some secret facts about yourself, like one thing that they would not be able to Google about you, what would it be? Maybe Kendall, you want to take it first?
Sure. Yeah, I feel like I'm doing one of the icebreakers where it's a little fun fact. The typical fun fact that I usually go to is that I've been skydiving before. Um, so I like to do more thrilling activities like that. I'm also a big fan of roller coasters and haunted houses and things that get my adrenaline up.
Basically anything that would kill me. But that's amazing. Skydiving. I've always wanted to try skydiving. I have no idea how you had the guts to just do it. I had to like jump off like one ledge once and I almost died doing it. So amazing. James, how about you?
Yeah, I guess a fun fact about me, you can technically Google this, but it's a cool fun fact is that I can find myself on Google Street View. So if you go on the little pin and then kind of see 360 view, you can find me like waving to you. So
Are you gonna reveal like a vicinity we can do this search on? Because I'm a bit worried if not everybody's gonna search the whole Google Street View to find you now.
I think you could technically
Was
find
it
me,
a
but
secret? 'Cause then we will
my
reveal
face
it to
is
you.
like mhm.
It's okay. Okay, guys, please do not get distracted now. Do not go and start hunting down for James in Google Street View. We will do this after the summit. I'll join you. It seems like a fun activity to have. Michelle, how about you?
I was thinking about this, but now it's about Student Leaders Summit. I'll share something. So, when I was an undergrad, I was president of my residence association. I mean, it's not a surprise. But I remember now that Thanksgiving is coming close, Canadian Thanksgiving is actually sometime in October. And we eat turkey dinner. For those of you who might not know, Thanksgiving is when you eat turkey dinner, and turkey are humongous. And I had a great idea of fitting about 300 people. So we decided to purchase about, I would say, 45 to 50 turkey. And I only brought about three executive of us. So we went to Costco and all of our bins full of turkey dinners and stuffing going out. And I remember all these people in Costco watching us. And then we somehow have to figure out how to cook it because we do not have enough oven for it. So I remember
Yeah.
sending each of the people with one turkey to home to cook it and bring it back to share.
Wow. Okay, I mean I'm imagining you guys like pushing the trolleys with all the turkey dinners in there. And as someone who does not celebrate Thanksgiving in this part of the world, it's such an intriguing thought to have. But you are right. This is a panel about student leaders and how we can use these initiatives that we have as student leaders to foster change. And I think each one of you play a very important role in that. I apologize for this. I am going to refer to my notes so that I do not mess each person's bio up. But I think, Michelle, you are the Gen-SDG ambassador for UN Association in Canada, which basically champions for youngsters doing things for creating change, which I think is amazing. That's what SNN stands for. And Kendall and James, both of you are as well co-president of the Princeton Entrepreneurship Club. Select Span, which is another co-organizer of this event, is also someone who strives for instilling entrepreneurship in students. So I feel in entrepreneurship, youth, when they come together, we can create so much of change. Um, Are these topics something that you guys always like to talk about? Was this something that you were into when you were a child itself, like you were the 9-year-old kid who already had 5 different businesses? Or is this something that you stumbled into later on, but now it has taken up kind of most of your life in a way? Anyone who wants to go ahead, please do.
I can go first. Yeah. For me, I was more of, I guess I kind of stumbled onto entrepreneurship right in the beginning of undergrad. So I mentioned before, I was a junior right now in college. So yeah, more or less in high school years, I just learned of the term, I guess, entrepreneurship, right? It's something that we learn, and it's like something that people do. And it's like I guess in school, it's like always in the textbook, but it's nothing that they tell you that you can actually do in real life. And
Yep.
so coming into college, I was going at like club fairs and I was like, oh, there's an entrepreneurship club here. It's like something that you can do outside of school, right? And so I just I got engaged with that activity throughout my freshman year. Then I engaged with it more sophomore year, and guess here I am. It's been really, really interesting in kind of meeting new people.
It's amazing. That's amazing. Kendall, how about you?
Yeah, I'd say my experience was pretty similar to James. My senior year of high school, I started a business, which was a nonprofit business that donated proceeds to hospital funds. So I guess I had a little bit of prior experience before coming into Princeton, but um, nothing completely foreign. And I was definitely unaware of all the different paths and how many diverse paths there are towards entrepreneurship. And so my freshman year, I also joined E-Club, and that kind of started my journey into considering this as a formal profession or becoming involved in other startups on campus.
Yep. So I think James and Kendall, both of you are from Princeton, uh, and I think Michelle, you're from Harvard. A sneak peek is that I'm actually pursuing or beginning to pursue my courses in Harvard Extension School. So eventually I'll be an official master's student. That's the goal that I have for the year. So now we have a equal balance of Harvard and Princeton going on in the panel, which I thought I should point out. But Michelle, how did your journey kind of got started?
Definitely. So for me, like I personally, when I was born in Korea, but I left Korea when I was 5, and then I moved to the Philippines, and then I went to Canada, like rural Alberta, where I was the only person of color in a very Caucasian community, and then came to my undergrad. And I was always good at school. So when you're good at school, and if you're from back from Asian countries, like to help others, people say, "Oh, you can be a doctor." So I attended my undergrad in science thinking I'll be a doctor. And throughout undergrad, just like how James said, I think from my very freshman year, I started going to different clubs fair, joining different groups, and getting involved through a lot of this opportunity. I learned that you can help others through varying different means. And I was looking at the health option, but I talked about sustainability and social aspect, and which is where I get to a little bit learn more about UN Sustainable Development Goals, where there are about 17 goals that we have to tackle in this world, ranging from health, poverty, peace, climate action. And then through that, I got a little bit more involved in the province. And then this is how I got to join UN in Canada, working toward Generation Sustainable Development Goals. And then now doing my master's degree that is more focused on sustainability, health, policy, and global development. And I'm also the president of our master's global development program this year. So I
Wow.
somehow got here from thinking that one idea of like, okay, maybe medicine to help people to finding different ways of skills.
Yep. That's amazing because I think most of our generation and Gen Zs, and they naturally want to make the world a better place. That's something I've personally noticed. So in the work we do in Ascendance, I'm meeting teenagers day in, day out. And one of the things that I know is that all of them start off by thinking, I want to do something to make this world a better place. And that's where they get started. But of course, later on they might get into pathways that may not necessarily kind of help them achieve that goal that they have. But I think three of you have kind of found that through your education and also the other ventures that you have, how you can kind of give back. And I'm a strong believer that young people have the power to change. They I don't know if it's just the fact that they are young, or the fact that they have so much of energy, but somehow it's a great combination to instill change in a way. I personally have many. I think if you let me talk about ascendance, I can talk for hours and telling all the different examples of how the youngsters in our environment changed things in their world. But I'm curious to know about you guys. Maybe you can share with me a little bit about what is your personal experience of observing or witnessing young people who come in and kind of make a change that you never thought was possible or kind of blew your mind.
I guess I can start first because you two have been starting. So I think for me, I see two cases. There are I think a lot of us wants to make change, but the biggest question is we don't know how or where to start because I think that is the biggest barrier. Or the other challenge is for the ones who wants to be more involved and have that will to sometimes feel like overwhelming burden with so much going on. Like even now at this point in our world, there's so much going on and there's so many ways that you can contribute, but we don't know where to begin. But at the same time, like some of us here, but so many of the youth are working on so many different aspects of sustainability. So my perspective that I noticed was that if you're interested in getting started on any of the journey on making impact to this world through entrepreneurship, volunteering, or any of this, I would say start with your local area. High school, when I was in high school, that is where I started doing volunteering for my public school in rural town and running for our students council and continuing on through university time in the clubs fair, finding what makes that passion. And there was a point where in the very beginning start doing a surface level research and then start joining and eliminating what really sticks to you is one way. And second, there will be times that you might feel like managing between academics, work, and then extracurricular, there might be a lot of work to be done, and also seeing that, oh, am I making enough change? And I think for me, that gives me comfort sometimes to see other youths who are also working hard. So surround yourself with others who are also following this passion is always another good point. So I think that is where I would see a lot of work that is done by youth in terms of change making and how we see and to do some of this beginning of the work.
Very nicely shared. Very nicely shared. I think the overwhelming feeling that you face is something a lot of the young people face, especially if you're a student and pursuing all these ventures. We had a teenage entrepreneur challenge finale that took place at the beginning of this global game changers summit, and we had like 40 different teams across Malaysia and Indonesia which started their own business, and a lot of them contributed to a social cause that they care about. They have never done a business in their life. This is their first time setting up a business, and a lot of them did share about, as much as people think it's a cool thing to do, you're a teenage entrepreneur, but we faced a lot of problems. Like we had to manage our academics, we had to manage the team. It was a lot of work. But I guess that's it's more manageable and more exciting to handle it, like you said, if you have a group of fellow teenage entrepreneurs or fellow student leaders who are also pursuing that path, so that you kind of can help each other out and motivate each other as well. James and Kendall, any stories about the young people in your network, especially since you guys are in the club, who kind of have made some changes?
Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts about our jobs as presidents is getting to field in all these incredibly excited freshmen, sophomores, juniors.
Yep.
Particularly the freshman class is always bringing a lot of energy and life into the club. And James, I wanted to share the story of the creation of one of our sub-teams, Forge, which is a venture studio. It was created by three freshmen, Ying, Matthew, and Schwan, who came in their freshman year, um, you know, ready to with a great idea for a sub team, and they wanted to create some sort of startup incubator on campus where students could get together in small groups of about 4 to 5 students and pump out different ideas for startups, with the main intention of gaining practice and getting those valuable skills that an entrepreneurial journey teaches you. Um, and along that journey, they also found a good amount of success. So they had a startup called Escolta Technologies make it to YC, which is Y Combinator, and then it actually was a finalist company. So yeah, that is an incredible story, in my opinion, of a small group of students with a big idea that were able to make it happen on campus just through sheer will and dedication to um, creating those opportunities for other students and themselves.
That is very amazing. Congratulations, I guess, for making that happen for them as well. James, any other stories that comes to your mind?
No, yeah, Kendall, that was a really good one. I like that story a lot because it just shows a lot about just like, I guess, overcoming doubt, right? Because there's so many things to do and so many things to choose from. It can also be, and you have so many stresses, I guess, in your life that you're like, oh, like how do I handle, right? Academics, and how do I handle this extracurricular or that extracurricular? So that's really good. That story really shows like, okay, overcome this doubt. I'll do this. And then if it doesn't work out, I learn something from it, right? The best part about it is just approaching it with a very optimistic mindset. And so if it doesn't work out as the way that you intended it to be, see what you can learn from it and move on. So that was a really powerful story. I guess for one of my stories is that for the past 2 years, I've been helping out with one of our flagship annual events, the Princeton Pitch. And so essentially, Princeton Pitch is a pitch competition for student-founded startups here in Princeton. And so what I really like about it is one of the tracks they have is like just for ideation stage. So literally, if you have an idea for a company, you can come make a pitch presentation and kind of pitch in front of VCs and see how far you can go. And I like that a lot. It's just, again, touching back to the point of thinking what you have, running with it, and just not being afraid to just, I guess, go with it. Right. And so I really like that part where you're kind of seeing all the stories, seeing all the ideas come out, just kind of like on a whim, I want this idea. I know this idea. Let me see if I can kind of pursue it a little bit further. And so it's like really promoting that creativity.
Yep, very true, very true. Going, I think many times it kind of gets better as you pursue it. You have to try something out and go like, okay, this is not what I was trying to do. It's not achieving the goals that I want to achieve, and then you pivot and you change the way. So speaking of that, I think many times when I do meet young leaders who kind of want to change things, there's two pathways they can take. One of it is, of course, following an organization that already exists, that is already creating the change, and you join them and be a part of that organization and contribute. And then, of course, there's another one, which is starting up something that you feel is going to make a difference, and then you pursue that. Personally, as in your own journeys, are you guys, what did you find more, I don't know, better, rewarding, or which one was more helpful for you to achieve the goals that you wanted to have? Do you think there's a preference for, like, the certain group of people would prefer one of the methods, or it really depends on your current scenario? Anybody wants to have any thoughts to share? Michelle?
Sure. I think it has both its benefits because I'm like similarly, Harvard also have Harvard Innovation Lab, and I'm doing a
Yes.
lot of work with climate action innovation work. So I do a lot of work. So for me, I think I started first through when I first joined the different groups. It is best to do, for me, it was really good because when you're first joining, you really have no idea. Like, you do not have the skills, even things around how do you get people, how do I share my idea, how do you do all of these things. And good thing about being youth is not just within your school setting, but there are so many opportunity outside that people are willing to mentor you because you're still young. People are willing to help you because you're still youth and you have the drive and passion. And people also do not expect you to be already at the expert level. So there's that leeway. But joining an existing organization, of course, that gives you that perk, understanding, and more of that skill set and tools that you can use to build your own. In terms of starting your own, I think so as one of the other thing I haven't shared here yet was I also have a social, not an entrepreneurship, but social work that we do in India. So Jivan Foundation. So we started with about 6 students during COVID time, helping out from rural India, girls and youth who do not have any access to education. Now we have an entire new school in a local area, as well as about 500 students that we are supporting. So in throughout those work, I think you learn something as an organizer, as a leader, and as a founder, something that you would never experience as a local person. Anything from like working around the policy, organizing, leading, and actually a lot of like responsibility lies with you because you have to lead entire team of it. At the same time, a lot of excitement, and you get to make your own direction. So I don't think
Yep.
there's one or the other, but both have its benefits. But I personally enjoyed learning first and then doing my own.
That's very nice. I was the complete opposite. I just dove right in, and then suffered for the first few years. But I think all pathways have its own perks in a way. But yeah, James, anything to add on?
Yeah, I guess a good viewpoint to think of is also just making sure that to recognize that it doesn't, you don't have to be separate, right? Like you
Yeah,
don't have to choose one way and commit to it. You can weave around, kind of try this out, try that out. And they all, as Michelle said, they all have their benefits and I guess they all have their use cases, right? In my high school, we didn't really have that much, I guess, the study of linguistics. And so I was actually quite interested in that field. And so I know a couple of friends that were like across the US that I found on the Discord community that were also interested. And so we made like a little group for ourselves just to see like if we can promote the study of linguistics. And so that community grew. So I guess that was more of like starting your own thing because existing structures weren't there, right? Versus now taking up the leadership in Entrepreneurship Club here at Princeton. There's already great ecosystem, a really great I guess organization here that I thought was worthy to kind of go up and kind of lead, right? And so these were two different use cases, right? Entrepreneurship here was already established. Why would you want to create another one? So this makes most sense versus linguistics. There wasn't really something there. I think the closest one near me or in my school was like a Latin club, which was really nice, but it just really wasn't exactly what I was looking for. So I was like, okay, let me just set out and kind of make this new venture.
that's a nice example of how you can strike the balance. Not and it's like you said, it's not like you just have one interest and only one thing that you want to work on. So it's different things that you're interested in will have different approaches.
Exactly.
Kendall, do you have anything to add? If not,
Yeah, I think both of the other panelists touched on some really great points. The only thing that I would add is that you can incorporate your own initiatives and energy into an already established organization, and that's what me and James are trying to do this year.
that's
I
true.
think last year I was directing one of E-Club sub-teams, so I wasn't in formal E-Club leadership. I was rather a leader of one of the individual sub-teams that we had, and I saw that some of the infrastructure and programming could have been bolstered. I also wanted to enliven the club's culture.
Yeah.
And yeah, I set out to do that the past year and set it up nicely for the following leadership. And so, in that way, it felt like I almost created something new and innovative, even though it was based on a prior existing club.
Very nice, very nice. I liked how all of you guys share the same thing, but three very different perspectives at the same time. One of the things that I think when student leaders want to embark on something, and like I said, a lot of the Gen Zs do want to give back, do want to make the world a better place. But there's a difference. That there's always a group of people that go and like they get it to happen, they make it happen. I think the three of you guys are, I would say, the category of people who like go out and achieve the things that you want to achieve. But there's always there's another group of people who they would want to make that change, but they never necessarily take those steps. And I think this is something I face in any school that I go to. There's always certain kids who are going and getting things done, and then there's certain kids who say they want to get it done, but they're not really working on it. And it's not that they are not wanting to do it, they do want to do it. So what do you feel kind of sets you differently in that path, in a way where it's no longer just talking about change, it's about getting the change to happen? And what are the things that a student can kind of like work on to ensure that they are moving more towards people who get things done rather than just talk about it?
I think this kind of harkens back to what James was talking about at the very beginning of this discussion of just having genuine curiosity and passion about whatever it is that you are passionate about. And so my journey to E-Club presidency just started my freshman year when I was curious about what was being offered um, at school, and I attended a bunch of different campus fairs and activities fairs, and it was something that really resonated and something that I became engrossed in and passionate about. And so it was a really natural progression for me personally. I think that there were a bit of nerves though, deciding to apply to be a president, and that is definitely something that I could see having been a drawback. But I had a lot of conversations with other people, supportive people in my life that encouraged me to take that step and go for it and apply. And yeah, I say just go out and take that first step and have confidence in your abilities.
Very nice, very nice. Anything else to add, Michelle? Maybe.
For sure. I was just reflected me back on university. For me, like joining something was a lot easier if you just sign up. But what was really scary was when you're going into leadership position. I remember in our campus, you have to put your face out there. You had to put and get elected. And then if you think about those scenarios and situations, I think something that really helps. So even it is not an elected position, and if you're trying to get something done, but some people might not be joining something because they might not have enough information or feel like you're not enough. That imposter syndrome is always there with you, or some people might still have that. But I think in those cases, I think Kendall a little bit mentioned it a little, but it would also work by you reaching out to people who might be doing those work already and just going to them and ask, how's your experience? What skills do you
Yep.
see? Or how can you be more involved in throughout these opportunities? And I will tell you more often than not, they are always happy to share. There are so many people who are willing to share and mentor you. So if that is an area that you want to learn, try that out is one way. And also know that you do not have to go into any of this opportunity with prior knowledge or experience. Like I also started like James by trying multiple things and moving my way. And I don't know, somehow I ended up here as well. So I think there's really a lot of work in just trying, having that optimistic mindset and see where it will land you eventually. And you will be surprised.
Very nicely shared. I think I agree. Like nowadays, in the work that I do, when young people do approach us and like, I love what SNS does, I want to do it more. I'm never gonna say no. I'm gonna be like, please come. I need more people like you because we need more people to make these changes to happen. So I completely agree with what you said, James. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I guess another one that Michelle and Ken have kind of talked about is kind of just being true with yourself, take some time to reflect and see
Mm,
like what are your real motivations, what actually interests you.
yep.
I know society like nowadays is like, oh, they're enforcing things that we should be doing, but there's also things that obviously you want to do, right? So I guess taking some time for yourself, really thinking through what's in it for me, I guess, like what do I really like about this? And then that can help you kind of identify barriers on why you're not making that change, right? Why you're not attending that event, why you're not applying for that position. Like what exactly about it is that barrier? And so once you identify those things, they become more concrete. You can kind of try to tackle them, kind of flip them, right? Kind of like make sure that you know exactly what you want to focus on to improve yourself, right?
Yep.
It's always like a learning experience that you want to take. And so the best way possible is trying to make that more concrete as possible. There's a lot of gray area. And so you want to make it something that you can find bite-sized things to kind of slowly take away so that you can kind of be your best self and continue to strive to improve.
I like that. Like it's take bite size because then it simplifies the process for you and it's not too overwhelming, which I think a lot of young people feel overwhelmed consistently and it's important to kind of overcome that. I thought of going a little bit more into specifically the fields that you guys are involved in, because that is not what I'm involved in. So my focus is youth entrepreneurship and just generally youngsters getting exposed to different fields, hence why we're having this global game changer summit. But Michelle, your focus is very much on sustainability. So like if someone is keen to get started in sustainability, do you feel that there are certain things that they tend to miss out on? Because like I think it's a cool word. A lot of people use the word without really understanding what it means, especially in the recent years. So as someone who is an ambassador for this in a way, what do you feel people miss out on, or young people miss out on, when they go into sustainability and making a change there?
I think there's multiple. First, I think sustainability, when people think, I think many people tend to think it's about climate change. But I initially joined sustainability because when I was in the Philippines, coming from Korea, seeing that big gap in inequality in education, I started from social sustainability, where I wanted to make sure these girls get the education. I want to make sure that they are not the ones who are always impacted by the climate effect. And then through that, you see that connection. I think there's three pillars of sustainability: the social end, environmental, and economic side, which three of you are experts on. So I think that is one thing. And if you are thinking about sustainability, I mean, especially Gen Z, we are more aware of something called UN Sustainable Development Goals. And there are 17 goals. And another challenge I think I noticed is that people feel like there's immense pressure and there's so much work to be done, but also sometimes feel like our future is doomed because, things around the world and the news is scary every single day. But this
Yes.
is also where you get to see that, like, you don't have to work on every single one of them. But if you focus on one of them, you just have to have a trust that there are other youths who are also working on this. So, like in a few weeks, I'm going to Dubai for COP28, and I noticed that there are so many other youth who are doing so much different sectors of sustainability that they are making, trying to make that impact. And trying seeing that in more and more of these spaces where actual decisions are being made, a lot more of youth opportunities are coming in. I hope this is not a token check mark. As young entrepreneurs and people, we know that there are times where they will bring you to these spaces as a check mark, or like, oh, we are helping out youth. But we want to really make sure these actions are getting done and our voices are being heard. So for me, a lot of work around this is really around sustainability and youth is focused on knowing that there's a lot of intersectionality. You're not doing this alone, and then always strive for that action and change.
That's amazing, and I think that's something I'm personally recently very interested in, because I had an opportunity to go for the Commonwealth Youth Awards recently, and I met amazing change makers, young change makers from all across the world, in different areas of the SDG. And some of them were working on education, some of them were working on poverty elevation, all of it. And I was like, why did I not know about these people before? Like, why did it take me to come halfway across the world to meet these people and get connected with them? James, I think you are someone who did work on some form of a social networking, so I should pick your brains for this, right? How do we make it better? Because I feel we are not doing enough with regards to connecting all the young change makers. Like, I'm meeting the three of you for the first time today. I should have met you guys years ago. So, like, how do we make that better as student leaders who are currently working on projects? How do we foster the collaboration between young student change makers to be better?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think it's a loaded question too. I mean, if we had the answer to that, we wouldn't be asking this.
That's true.
Um,
Maybe we'll come up with something amazing through this panel session. Like, we're gonna blow
yeah,
everybody's
sure. Yeah, we definitely can brainstorm here. Um, but yeah, no, I was working with a startup last summer about the social networking app. And
mind.
so I think the biggest issue that we have here is that we're missing the human component, right? Um, it's everything's so virtual. It's nice that we have the internet. It's nice we have our computers or laptops that we can have StreamYard, have YouTube, kind of connect with
Yep.
one another. But at the end of the day, it's the best connections are made in person, right? When you have like a guest speaker for your class, right? It's best to have them in person talk to you, not over Zoom. And I guess if you're having like a meeting for like your club, the best ones are in person and not in that. And so I guess if we can try to leverage technology and bring it back to in person, have more, I guess, summits, have more conferences that are actually in person. And yes, it's hard for travel, but you have to be willing to make those travels, because I guess that's really what really makes lasting experiences and really something that's worthwhile, more worthwhile than I guess the alternatives. Very short answer for now, but I think just making it more human, being more physical, is a big
Yeah,
element to the solution.
agreed. I mean, I think it kind of makes the connection much more better, and it even I don't know, for some weird reason, maybe just being next to each other helps us think better. I don't know, but you are able to come up with much more clearer ideas when you have formed a very good solid connection, rather than just an email like, hey, I love what you do, and then nothing much takes place after that. Kendall, I'm gonna go into, since like what Michelle said, all of us are expert in economics. I do not agree with that, but I but I shall assume Kendall is an expert in economics and entrepreneurship and all of this. If someone wants to make a change in that particular field, what are some of the things that they need to look out for, or what are the things they need to approach to kind of ensure that their pathway is going well?
Yeah, I think that it's all about meeting the right people. And so getting involved in a student organization or a club like Princeton E Club or your school's equivalent is really important, not only in gaining the tangible skills that will help you in your entrepreneurial career in the future, but also meeting your potential future business partners, meeting people with really cool and interesting ideas that could motivate a new idea of your own. Um, in terms of challenges and things to look out for, I think the biggest challenge for our student entrepreneurs on campus is balancing academic life and running your own business. It's something that's really difficult and at times impossible to actually make happen. So one of the ways that we personally bypass that is by having groups of students work together on these side hustles and entrepreneurial ventures. But I think that that is probably one of the main inhibitor or disinhibitors of entrepreneurship on Princeton's campus specifically. In terms of how to address that, I think not every single student has to be a student entrepreneur. But as long as you're building your acumen now, just getting it on your radar, and again, making those personal connections, those will definitely set you up in the future if you do decide to pursue a venture of your own.
Yep. I mean, I'm someone who never really appreciated the networking that I did when I was like a student, like fresh off high school, entering college. I didn't understand the importance of it when I was doing it at that time. I met some amazing people, but I barely like kept in touch with them and did not do anything with those contacts. And I think nowadays I appreciate a whole lot more that I get the opportunity to speak to these people. So, like you said, you don't need to necessarily jump into entrepreneurship immediately. You can get started with these building blocks in a way, because when they come to the right amount of level in a way, it will make sense and it will help you tremendously. So we are coming slowly to the end of our panel, um, and I think we can wrap up with one final question for each one of you. I'm gonna just ask the ones who are tuning into Global Game Changers Summit. Most of them are going to be youngsters. Either they are high school students or they are students in university. So if they wish to get started right now, um, what should they? I mean, I kind of did, the whole panel was about that. So let's not talk about what should they do. Let's talk about what they shouldn't do. What is one thing you should avoid doing? Or like you did something and then you realized this was a mistake. I should have done something differently, so that they can then take in and process that and try out something different. Anyone has anything that comes, so I run a talk show and I like to ask people what is the biggest money mistake you have done. So I love asking people about their mistakes because that's where the juicy stories are. So I'm sorry for putting you guys at a spot. James, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Still thinking, but I think the ones, it's gonna be a pretty broad for now, but I think it's just, I guess, not just always taking some type of bias that you've heard of from others, rumors from other people, and then
Mm,
that basically influencing your thoughts before you set out for it. Obviously, it's good to take advice, but also take into consideration of things that, like, oh, so someone's like, oh, like, don't do this, this is not good, you won't enjoy it, but oh, this class is really hard, don't take it, or this topic's not going to be interesting, you won't make a lot of money out of it. And so I guess that's a lot of, I guess, just doubt that sometimes clogs your mind. And
yep.
so I guess you can't really tell from other people. And so if you're really curious about it, just take it, just do it. I had a lot of times where I had a bunch of friends that said, "Oh, like this class is super hard. Don't study this topic. It's not useful." But like when I guess took the opposite advice, I actually liked it. And so I guess I kind of look back now. I don't have that many regrets, but I guess the regrets that I do have are just not trying, right?
Mm.
Um, so just try and do what you can. And yeah, take advice with like a little bit of grain of salt.
Got it. I mean, I like that. Sometimes your bias would stop you from approaching certain opportunities, which is important to be aware of. Michelle?
I would say don't think that you will succeed in everything. especially if you're taking our advice and like James and I have been saying like, oh, try different things and then think in my first year I was joining like 6 or 7 student groups and stretched myself thin, but from then I went to selection. And I think it is also important to remember to think about the sustainability of our investment in time as well as how long can we do it to prevent the burnout. Been there, not easy, but I think if I would advise myself, it's okay to try, but also do not be harsh on yourself that you will not succeed in everything, but you will learn something in everything.
Thank you, Michelle. I needed that. It's like a slap too. I needed that with regards to time and understanding you only have finite time and you need to be very careful on how you spend that. Loved it. Kendall?
Yeah, my piece of advice was kind of similar to Michelle's. Summed up, it's quality over quantity. I think, yeah, I have also had a similar experience trying to be an overachiever and spreading myself far too thin in way too many different clubs and groups, but not really getting fully invested in any of them. And so I felt like my net experience in terms of extracurriculars wasn't as meaningful or as deep as it could be. Whereas now, I mean, I've completely prioritized eClub and have taken on a far more occupational role, but in that I found a lot more fulfillment. And I'm incredibly passionate about the work that I'm doing. And I feel like I'm making a true impact on campus through this role. And so that feels way more valuable to me than a bunch of different lists of membership to different clubs. Though that might be great for some people, for me personally, I think it was something that I would personally avoid.
Very nice. I'm gonna take that advice too. Wow, I've learned a lot today. So if I mean I personally enjoyed talking to you guys so much. Thank you so much for taking your time to be a part of this panel. But if the audience and myself included are interested to learn more about what you do and follow you guys on your journey and of course get connected and see how we can work together, what would be the best way to get in touch? Because I've stopped assuming that people would use the social media channels that I use. So please share with us on what would be the best way to get in touch with you guys.
For me and James, you can find our contact information on princetoneclub.com. You can also learn more about our club there. Pretty much sums up all of our sub teams, the way we're organized, and has a few resource guides there.
Perfect.
For me, you can find me on LinkedIn. I've started to use a little bit more of LinkedIn now so that you will be able to see the professional connection, and I'll try to check my inbox more, especially after this panel.
Perfect. I'm gonna send a request. Yes. Okay, so perfect. Thank you so much. James, do you have any other socials that you want to mention? Or we're good?
LinkedIn works for me too. Email also works. LinkedIn might be a little bit better because my emails have been spammed. So yeah, either one works. Yeah, I'll keep an extra attention on my inbox. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. I am personally very, very happy that I got to meet some amazing young change makers like you guys. I really hope that we could bring about more amazing changes together. And thank you so much for being a part of this panel. And to the
Thanks.
audiences, I think our next panel is going to be even more interesting because we had some university level student change makers here. Now we're going to meet some teenage entrepreneurs who are in their high school, going to be sharing their journey. So Michelle, James, Kendall, if you have a bit more time, stay tuned and watch that. It's going to be great. But really appreciate your time and see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.